Allstate wants to remind fans that mayhem is everywhere. Like when your fantasy league meets up at your house. Everything's great until the hot plate gets too hot for the tablecloth. Now your kitchen's up in smoke. And if you don't have the right home insurance coverage, the cost to fix this is anything but a fantasy. So switch to Allstate, save money, and get protected from mayhem like this. Not available in every state based on coverage selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Savings vary.
Your home for K-State athletics. This is Wildcat Insider with the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, and KMAN Sports Director, Mitch Fortner.
Well, here we go, Wildcat fans. 5 just short days out from kickoff. August 31st at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. K-State UT Martin kicking off the 2024 season. And we kick off the week's worth of coverage with 1 hour of Wildcat Insider. We'll take it to 5 o'clock. Royals baseball takes over from there for game 2 of their day-night doubleheader. Is Saturday just the start of what could be possibly one of the most special seasons in K-State football history? The conference now at 16 teams. Texas, Oklahoma, they're gone. Returning is Colorado. We also welcome in Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, plus the college football playoff is now at 12 teams. How many teams can the Big 12 get into the college football playoff? Welcome to Wildcat Insider. I am Mitch Fortner. Now, this was announced last week that there is a difference to the show this season, with the Chris Kleiman press conference along with the players coming in as well being changed to Monday. We've had to move a few things around. We still plan on every Monday to have Wyatt Thompson on the show. I did record an interview with him earlier today. You'll hear that at 4:25. But we have a new primary full-time host here on Wildcat Insider. We welcome in Tim Iverson from the Manhattan Mercury. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mitch, so much. I'm a poor man's replacement for Wyatt, but I'm happy to fill in.
But you still got a great, deep voice, and I'm sure you've been told that many times. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, was born in Wichita, but grew up in the Manhattan area. Went to Riley County High School, went to K-State. Was the sports editor in EIC for the Collegian, and then I bounced around to a couple smaller papers around the state, and then I've been back at the Mercury since 2021, and I've been sports editor for the last 2 years or so. And, yeah, it's a blast. I love covering the Cats. This year does have that potential to be something real special, and I'm excited to dive into it.
I think it's now between you and Troy to see who has the deepest voice at K-Man. You're both up there, I got to say. But welcome, and you're also now going to be joining us as well on you're one of the 3 new hosts that we've announced for PowerCat Game Day. So welcome to PowerCat Game Day as well, which is coming up this Saturday.
Yes, very excited, and that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Love hanging out with Mason. Excited to get to know Zach Nemechek a little bit. Loved watching him on Saturdays, and I don't know. I think we're going to be able to put out a lot of good stuff. I'm excited.
Well, I've had the chance to get to know Zach here lately, and I got to tell you, he's got the right personality for a show like – and by the way, also the background. As a former player who played in 50 games for Bill Snyder, he has the personality in the background to be a perfect host for PowerCat Game Day, which, of course, will start at 2 o'clock here on News Radio KMAN and on our sister station 101.5 K-Rock with pregame coverage 4 hours prior to every K-State football kickoff. Well, let's get into it, Tim, because earlier today, Chris Kleiman with his press conference and also releasing the first depth chart of the 2024 season. There's plenty of standouts for me. One, actually, I wasn't really surprised by anything. I don't think we were caught by anything off guard. We knew Damian Ilalio was going to be moving into that first string spot last week for the nose guard position. I think what's interesting is that there are a number of there's 2 running back spots. There's also 2 tight end spots listed on the depth chart. But also I got to add this as well. And this is quite the number because I've been sharing this on the show the past couple of weeks. And I was given a heads up that you are going to be seeing a lot of redshirt freshmen / first-year sophomores get to play. I threw out the number 15. And that was compared to what I had going into last year's season with 8. it's a much higher number. But when this depth chart came out, if you look at the 2 and maybe in a few spots there's a 3 deep because of the oars on the depth chart, the count for redshirt freshmen or true sophomores is 21 that can play on this team, especially early on when you're hoping to see a lot of guys rotate in and out in this first game against UT Martin.
Yeah, and that's definitely been kind of a focus for Kleiman since he's gotten here, and especially I think maybe partially due to how the transfer portal works and wanting to keep people happy, but also they've just gotten a handful of guys that were kind of studs from the get-go, and they know they need to get those guys on the field ASAP, and they're going to do whatever they need to make that happen.
Let's hear from Chris Kleiman. A lot of talk, of course, about the offense and the defense just as a group. And where should the offense be its strongest?
Skill. We've got running backs, we've got receivers that can make big-time plays, and we've got to find ways to get guys touches. But I've been pleased each day that there's been somebody else in the wide receiver crew that has stepped up. There's been a bunch of running backs that have made plays and tight ends as well.
That should come as no surprise. I mean, that's been one of the biggest talking points of this offense. That's the skill, and you throw in Avery Johnson as well in his running ability. We know about the arm. He's great on his feet. But if you look at the skill positions, Tim, this could be the deepest K-State, I think, has certainly been, at least in the Chris Kleiman era. Then you start dipping into the last few years of the Bill Snyder era. It's been a while since we've seen this kind of talent at the skill positions.
Absolutely. The calling card for Chris Kleiman teams and even Snyder 2.0 teams has kind of always started with that offensive line. That's always kind of been what they hung their hat on and everything. I still think the offensive line is going to be plenty good, but the number of absolute guys that they have around, I mean, we're going to see, maybe 6, 7 wide receivers that are like that are going to play and put forth legitimate minutes, and that's just not something that we've seen. I don't know. It's been maybe like 2014. Maybe you had a collection of guys like that were that deep and that talented, and then running back is just a whole other level. I mean, and then as Mitch mentioned, they're showing that they have 2 separate spots. I don't know if that's just for Dylan and DJ to both be considered starters because they're both going to be out there quite a bit, but I mean that shows that there is a commitment to getting as many of those guys on the field as possible.
Well, we've been hearing during the fall camps that, boy, the offense, if they're given that one challenge to the K-State defense, it's the multiple looks that you're probably just not used to seeing from K-State football. You're going to have more than 2 tight ends on the field for some plays. You might see as many as 4 tight ends on the field, which the Chiefs recently have ran those kind of plays, and they call that the T-Rex offense. Running backs, you're going to see multiple on the field. You're going to see a big rotation of wide receivers as well. Where does the offense get better from last year? Here's Coach Kleiman.
Hopefully we can be more explosive on offense. Kind of tease the offensive staff of you got to call another couple plays because we got pushed out at the 5 or got tackled from behind at the 6 or didn't get it in. We've had the ability with a number of skill kids to hit some home runs, and now we can't just take home run shots. We've got to be able to get the ball in space to some of these guys quickly and let them make some plays and maybe try to hit a home run.
And when you think of explosiveness, who takes that to the next level is Dylan Edwards. I don't know if you ever saw him play when Manhattan High hosted Derby. When they won that sub-state championship game to go to the state championship in 2022, or week 1 when Manhattan visited Derby, but I got to see Dylan Edwards play twice, and man, nobody takes advantage of a broken play as much as Dylan Edwards can with his elusiveness, his speed, his overall just athleticism, but that's not where the athleticism stops. It may start there when it comes to just who's the fastest on the team. Plus, he's the new kid on the team. He is, I mean, when he committed to K-State 2 years ago, how exciting was that when Dylan Edwards, the fastest player in that 2023 class, was going to come to K-State. Ends up at 1 year at Colorado, but now he's where he belongs. I mean, you tell me, what's the ceiling for the explosiveness? Like, doesn't it feel like this team has a much more better opportunity to be the big play type of team?
Yeah, I mean, and they weren't terrible last year either, but I feel like they can do it in so many different ways. There's so many different ways they can be explosive, and I feel like with Avery being handed the full reins at quarterback, that is going to basically, I feel like it's going to empower him even more to really use those options, explore maybe some of the deeper look. A guy like Jace Brown, who ended up at the end of last year as maybe K-State's best receiver, he's going to bring all of that experience and all that talent back, and it's also going to get even better. There's just going to be so many ways that they can they can blow the top off the defense, and it's going to be exciting to watch.
Who is the person on offense you're looking forward to watch the most? Because I think most of us will gravitate towards Dylan Edwards, but what about a Keegan Johnson who's healthy? How about this second year as a sophomore for Jace Brown? And don't forget, also a first-string wide receiver is a transfer from Penn State who used to play for Matthew Middleton at Kent State in Dante Cephas. I think, boy, you have a lot of wide receivers that can just explode this season and be a big deal. Is there one at the top of your list?
For me, it is Keegan Johnson, just because of what the coaches have been saying about him. He was never really healthy at all last season, and it kind of got into his head a little bit. He kind of got down on himself, and it sucks being injured. What you have to go through when you're injured is terrible. And and when you come in with the expectations that he came in with, he got down on himself. But he was able to kind of dig deep and kind of find that confidence in himself. And the coaches have said it's made all the difference in the world. And Kleiman even started fall camp by saying that he feels like he has the potential to be the best wide receiver in the conference. And that, from what we saw last season, that's a big jump. That is a huge jump for him.
Let's switch over to the defensive side of things. Also from Chris Kleiman, the biggest strength for the defense heading into this season.
Veteran group, a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, or on all three levels of that defense that have played an awful lot of football, and us continuing to try to provide depth in those three positions of D-line, linebacker, and secondary. So I think the strength on defense is just the veteran people we have there.
I think right away, without just going by with knowledge and what we've seen from K-State the last couple of years, when you take a look at depth, names you expect to have an opportunity to break out this season, from that, just the whole two deep, you have to be excited for. Let's just first of all just take a look though at the leadership and experience. Today, K-State announced and released the depth chart. Right next to the depth chart is defensive career starts. Austin Moore has 28. Jordan Riley, who transfers in to play jack safety, 24 starts. 23 for Brendan Mott. Jordan Dunbar, who has worked his way he was a JUCO transfer, and he's now on the 2 deep to play cornerback, has 21 starts. VJ Payne was 17. He's pretty young. Desmond Purnell, jumping on the scene last year, big time last year, has Desmond Purnell with 14 starts in his career. Alec Marenko, who transfers in with 13 after he was the best player, in my opinion, at New Mexico. You just have a lot of experience, a lot of depth. It's hard to you could single out a few guys that are the leaders, but what makes this team is that you look around just about every spot, and how are you not comfortable with every spot on how deep it can be?
Yeah, there isn't a position where I'm shaky on defense, which normally there's at least one where the depth is a little. Everything is shored up in a way that is exciting and has to be comforting for the coaches. It's just finding a way to kind of get as many of those guys on the field that they know that can contribute as possible. And Kleiman's talked about that numerous times on both sides of the ball, which is a great problem to have. If you're struggling to get all of your talented pieces out on the field at once, I'll take that.
And one more clip from Chris Kleiman. Where should the defense be better compared to last year?
Eliminate some of the explosive plays, and that's the thing that probably makes me most concerned is you can do everything you want, but if you cannot stop the explosive play, people are going to get quick scores and stay with great momentum, and that's something that we've made a point about because of our offense having such explosive players.
Now, my memory isn't sharp. I don't have a great memory. Last season is already just kind of blending together. with other great K-State football seasons. Heck, the last 3 K-State's won at least 8 games every year. But I'll never forget the nightmare that was that Iowa State game. That was the definition of giving up the explosive play with, yes, the elements sucked, snowed. It wasn't necessarily the best day for K-State's defense in tackling. They gave up, 6 or 7 touchdown plays of over 60 yards. It felt like maybe that's not the right number. I'm obviously taking a big stab at that.
That's close enough.
But it was terrible. But however, I don't remember too many explosive plays given up, at least off the top of my head, but there were some. The offense didn't have enough explosive plays, and at times K-State did give up a bit too many. But I like that where K-State stands right now, because some of the leading tacklers on this team are in the secondary. They're really good solo tacklers. I want to see a guy like Jordan Riley go make a play in the flats, and I think where step one is into getting better as a defense as a whole is on first and second downs, set up a third and medium at least for the opposing offense. I think that's where it starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do that, and you help yourself out, and you make it more difficult for the offense because they got to find if they're a 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 6. That's difficult to do. You'd rather pound it out. But no, I absolutely agree. I was walking by the stadium earlier today whenever we went to press conferences, and if you squint real hard, you can still see Abu Sama out there running for 70-yard touchdowns. And I'm sure that's stuck into their mind. And another instance from last season that kind of stuck with me a little bit is the Texas game. Now you have, they had some serious talent on that team that's a little more forgivable than what happened in Iowa State. But the fact that that's kind of where they're at is it's just like, hey, we just can't let them beat us big. That feels good. That feels like a good place to be. If they're confident in other places, it's just like, just don't let us over the top. Don't let them over the top of us. I would feel pretty solid.
Well, you ask Iowa State fans and ask them what that game against K-State did for their confidence in 2024. Abu Sama became an overnight sensation and a star because of that game. And Rocco Becht, Hunter Deckers gets caught up in all that gambling stuff in the state of Iowa. Rocco Becht gets the football for the season. Now he's a starting guy, but that game against K-State was a big stepping stone for what this offense could be for under Matt Campbell to maybe sneak into be a dark horse for the Big 12 championship game. However, I do not have Iowa State as a pick for the Big 12 championship game. That's Tim Iverson. I'm Mitch Fortner, and when we come back, let's take a break here on Wildcat Insider. And when we come back, earlier today I got to speak with the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson. He'll give you his preliminary thoughts on the upcoming season next on Wildcat Insider. First of all, Wyatt, now we're doing press conferences on Monday. I appreciate you still squeezing me into your schedule to have a quick conversation about the Cats with football season here on Saturday.
I appreciate that, buddy. Good to be on with you. So excited for the new season. I know I'm not any more excited than you are, right? I mean, everybody's pumped up about this team, and rightfully so. I've been around here. This will be my 23rd year. I don't know if there have been any other seasons, maybe 1 or 2 in all of those years that you could say the pitch of the fan base was at this level. Don't you agree? I mean, it's just been crazy good.
It just feels like this has the making to be an extremely special season. Throwing a lot into the equation, the depth of this team, the skill of this team, not to mention now the Big 12 feels like K-State should be, in any given year, a top team. And also the college football playoff now expanded to 12, so this has a great chance to be a historic-making season.
I think when you look at this team, you look at what K-State has done. They've won at least 8 games 3 years in a row. That's pretty high-level football, and I think they're capable of more. Why? Coaching, player development, a star quarterback who's just a true sophomore, all kinds of veteran guys sprinkled around, and then a whole boatload of young guys, and it's their time. I remember after a practice this camp, talking to Matt Wells, quarterback's coach, I said, what about some of these young guys? He goes, Wyatt, they deserve to play, and they're going to play. I thought that was really exciting because they're going to get a chance. And as Coach Kleiman has said through camp, hey, they may not be household names now, but by November they will be.
I'm sure these last couple of months you've just been getting questions upon questions about what this team can be. I have as well. It's been, since the middle of June when Coach Tang wrapped up his his team. He got the transfer portal and all that done. He's ready to go. Now we're just waiting for K-State football to get here. So what's been the most common question? Has it been what you think about Avery Johnson?
I think probably, and how he'll handle it. What will the offense look like? I got that a lot. And here's what I've been saying about that, because it is a really good question. You have this dynamic quarterback. You have two really, really good running backs. You've got a lot of depth in the receiver room, and or at least we think we do, right? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, Jace Brown, Dante Cephas, Keegan Johnson, you just keep going there, Sterling Lockett. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but there are young guys there that have to come through. But if they do, all of a sudden it is a pretty deep room. I think they can play at a lot of different paces. They're not going to get away from who they are, and that's good, tough, quality, hard-nosed running football team. But they have the ability to play at different paces, different formations, and I think we're going to see quite a bit of that, honestly.
I remember since Sterling Lockett was a freshman, you had mentioned him at practice standing out, and you said maybe not today, but at some point he's going to be a major deal. And it feels like this is the year that Sterling Lockett takes off. You've been at practice. Have you seen a more skilled, mature Sterling Lockett ready to take off this season?
It's a good way to put it. Mature, stronger, probably confidence. I really enjoyed D. Scott Fritchen's article earlier about that with Kevin Lockett. And Kevin said Sterling's a Lockett, but he needs to be Sterling. And it's, he's there now. You can just see at the pace in which he's running and running routes and practicing, and that he is at a different level, strength-wise, confidence-wise, and just familiarization of the offense. I think he feels really good about it. So when you consider what he will bring backing up Jace in the slot, and what he could potentially bring, in the return game, probably behind Dylan Edwards, that's a good spot to be in.
So earlier today, K-State releases its depth chart for UT Martin on Saturday. I didn't really feel like, for me, there were a ton of surprises. I think we had heard enough during the press conferences to fill in the blanks. Maybe a few position battles we maybe weren't expecting, like a middle linebacker at nose, like Damian Leo is going to be the starter at nose. I'm pretty excited about that. He's a Manhattan High kid. I thought it was interesting that you have 2 tight ends listed as starters. You have 3 defensive ends listed as starters. But any takeaways from the depth chart that you saw today that does stand out?
Well, I wouldn't say that I was surprised about Damian, because he's had a really good camp and has been probably just a tick or two more consistent than Uso. But let's put that into perspective, because I think it matters when you're talking about depth. Both of those guys are really good football players, and they're going to play a boatload, right? I think you can equate that out to tight end. Garrett Oakley's a really fine player. Braden Lofton has had a great camp, and you have Will Swanson behind him, and you've got Will Ancio next there. I mean, that's good quality depth, even if it isn't, large on experience necessarily. I think that's part of what is intriguing about this team to me. Almost every position is like that. Think about Austin Romaine. I mean, he got thrown in there when Deuce Green got hurt last year and played really pretty well until he got dinged up and then came back. He's a much better football player now, right? 100%. But and Keegan Johnson, we didn't see the real Keegan until the last 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of the year last year. He should even be better, and he's a veteran dude. So lots and lots of stories on this team, but I love the depth.
And Coach Kleiman said it, that they may have some guys maybe holding out in this first game, but nobody's been ruled out. Maybe some questions, but injury-wise, nobody is an absolute out for this game. So that's good to hear that this team is healthy heading into game number 1.
You have to have that happen, and it is not an easy thing to get through the entire camp of 16 practices or so, and then another week, let's put that into perspective, before game week, right? And I think they did come out of it relatively in good shape. I was glad to hear him say that nobody has been ruled out, which says to me that they have a chance to play. It's a physical game. It's a hard game. And in this particular game, if you have a guy that's a little iffy, maybe you can get him out there briefly, but not for too long, and give other guys a chance. As an example, we all love Avery and can't wait to see him play. But you want to get those other 2 guys some snaps, right? I mean, you got to get a number 2 guy ready to play. And that means more than likely both of them, not just one. It'd be great to have both of them. And it's a dead heat. The coaches have said that for a couple of weeks. So I'm interested in watching that too.
I do have a couple of questions that have to do with the running backs.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of hype around this running game. K-State could have this three-headed monster. And I've been comparing it to 2003 about how you feel about it in the preseason, how good it can be. But DJ Giddens, I don't know how much you pay attention to the preseason stuff, but he's not being recognized very much. Is he being overlooked as one of the best running backs in the nation?
No question. I actually saw one on Twitter this summer that listed the top 10 running backs in our league, and he wasn't listed. I about spit my teeth out. That's crazy. It's not even feasible, right? He's easily one of the 3 or 4 best backs in this league, in a league that has Abu Sama and has Devin Neal at Kansas and guys like that. I could name more guys, but you get the point. The kid at Tech is great too. I love him, though, because he's such a unique character, but an extremely gifted football player. Strong, tough, inside, outside runner, can catch the ball, he can block, blitz pickup, all of those things. I just think he's terrific. And then when you put Dylan Edwards there, and even Joe Jackson, Joe's had a really good camp too. That we talk about depth in a lot of positions. Those front 2 guys are good, but really, even with James White, that's a pretty good group of 4, man. It just is. I'm excited about that bunch too.
So the last couple of years, I felt like the special teams and punt and kick return has been missing a little something. I mean, last year, K-State did not have a kick return or a punt return for a touchdown, which is not common whatsoever. And maybe it's now K-State has a defensive analyst who will be on the field that could help. But also, I expect Dylan Edwards in the return game to be electric. Have you seen him return any kicks at practice?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, multiple times. Sterling Lockett, too. Jace Brown also. Keegan Johnson also. That they've put, and always have, put a lot of emphasis onto that, right? And I just think you can see that they, with that emphasis, improvement. I am going to tell you that I think we will see an uptick in that. I love Nate Katzer. I love watching him coach. 16 years in the league. I mean, right away, boom, that is big time with these players. And, he's telling them things like, hey, you got a chance to make the league. Be a special team standout first. That may get you there. That may get you over the hump. Hey, they respond to that kind of stuff. I think he's terrific. He's been a great addition. I know Matt Wells gets a lot of headlines, and he should, but Nate Katzer's been a big addition too.
All right, let's wrap up by getting your thoughts on what you think about the Skyhawks of UT Martin and what they're bringing in on August 31st.
I think a better football team than probably the perception. They won 8 a year ago, lost to Samford on the road in the playoffs in the FCS. I think they'll be a pretty typical FCS team, meaning good quality quarterback, and they have that in Kincaid Dent. Their number 2 running back is back. Their top 2 receivers are back. They're pretty decent and deep at tight end. In the trenches, I think they're solid. Are they K-State? No. But they're really well coached, and they have that winning culture. They won their league 3 times in a row. Coach mentioned that at the press conference today. So I think, like all teams, you have to respect him. And I know he has, gone through that in his career at that level. He is not going to overlook a team like that, and I don't think the Cats will either.
All right, and how many seasons will this now be for you here at K-State?
Believe it or not, 23. Are you 23? You're 23, right?
I just turned 34.
It's been a long time, but it's been such a great thing, man. I'm so proud of the stuff that I've experienced and people I've worked with, and very, very excited for this one too.
Well, I was giving Stan a hard time because he said I can't remember how many years he's now been consecutively without missing a football game, but told him and Robert have the longest streaks here at K-State.
Well, and if you're anywhere in this hemisphere of Robert in terms of streaks, that's a good thing. Yeah, I think Stan's going to go long enough that it'd be pretty hard to catch him in terms of length of service on the air. Not a play-by-play guy, but as an analyst, it'd be hard to catch where he's going to end up, I think, because he's going to be here a lot longer than I am. Yeah. Right? And that's okay. That's a great thing.
All right, well, I appreciate it. Talk to you in a couple of weeks when we get ready for the Arizona matchup because we have next week off. So appreciate it, and we'll see you upstairs on Saturday.
Thanks so much, buddy. Good to see you.
Voice of the Cats, Wyatt Thompson. More on Wildcat Insider when we come back, including Avery Johnson total touchdowns over-under is after the break on KMAN. Well, Big Steve, who is a very important guy around here, hosted the morning show here on KMAN, and he left his headphones in here. Boy, these feel and sound expensive, so I need to be careful. Mitch Fortner, Tim Iverson back with you on Wildcat Insider. We take it at 5 o'clock. Royals take over there for the nightcap of the doubleheader. Winning one already against Cleveland, now within 2 games in the Central. Do you follow the Royals, Tim?
Oh, yes.
Big
Yes,
baseball guy?
Big Royals guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Big win.
Yeah, big win, comeback win. Bobby Wood Jr. once again. How about MJ Melendez, a diving catch out in left field? I don't know if you saw that highlight, but it was a hell of a catch. So Royals win tonight. They're within a game of the lead of the Central, AL Central. All right, so on the show, this is our first Wildcat Insider of the 2024-25 academic year for K-State. So we're going to have Wildcat Insiders every Monday other than national holidays. Every Monday through spring ball for K-State football. But leading up to kickoff, we've been doing a prediction for every show, one show leading off for the final 20 shows leading off to kickoff. Today's prediction is about Avery Johnson. And let me tell you, the debate I had in my own head was nuts. Not for exactly to pick if I'm taking the over or taking the under, but the number I want to set. Like if I'm Vegas, where am I setting the over-under for Avery Johnson total touchdowns? I debated forever of what should be a good number, taking in consideration literally everything. I'm not even convinced this is still a good place to start, but I set it at 36.5. We're talking touchdowns he throws and touchdowns he runs in himself. I think Will Howard last year had 33. So I got to think of all the weapons, all the rushing, who's going to, jet sweeps and all the running backs and all the big play capabilities. Gosh, you got to also take in consideration how bad are the Cats beating a team in halftime? Does Avery just sit out the second half? Does that happen 6 or 7 times? The dream would be yes. I'll let you lead off here, Tim. Over under on total touchdowns, and if you have a number in mind for Avery, tell the world.
I thought about it and I looked at, like I said, I looked up Will Howard's just to kind of see where he kind of set things. 33 without playing in that Texas Tech game, no bowl game for him. Avery had, let's see here, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Had 11 total touchdowns last year. I think I did my math right. Maybe 9. Doesn't matter. I just don't see a world where it's not more than 37 or 37 or more. I think that with the focus on more having a more dynamic offense, more options to score, maybe that makes his rushing touchdowns a little less than maybe they would have been because they have so many other options to run the ball that they're not going to put him in as much danger. So that was one consideration. But with all the weapons and with the focus that they want to have on sprinting the ball out and getting so many different guys in the end zone, I wouldn't be surprised at 40, maybe. That may be on the high end, but 36.5, it's 3 a game, roughly. Little, to get 36. I just feel like there's going to be games where he's responsible for 5, 6 touchdowns.
So you did the math correctly. 36 and a half. So it's roughly in a regular season 3 touchdowns. You also have to ask the question: how many games does K-State play?
Right.
Big 12 championship game, college football playoff. Can they play multiple games there? Or do you just cap it at 14? Or at the most, at the very least, K-State's going to probably play 13. But I was thinking regular season. I also threw in, what if something happens to Avery? It's, so rarely does a quarterback these days for K-State not miss any sort of time. I mean, for Will, it was just because of, Avery was so good, and Will just kind of had the shadow of Avery over him throughout the whole season. It was like sooner or later, Avery's just going to have to do something for the team. And we actually saw that pretty early last year. He got some running plays in the Mizzou game that we did not see him at Oklahoma State. And then, just like a shooting star, 5 rushing touchdowns against Texas Tech. I mean, game in and game out, Avery can go off. But I am going to take the over. And I'm already regretting 36.5. Now I feel like it should have been 40.5. I felt like I said a bad over-under. But again, I argued forever of what that should be. It's crazy that K-State's record for passing touchdowns in a season is 24. That is a low number.
It really is. It really is.
I mean, Avery could break that this year, and it wouldn't be a shocker.
And I guess that partially because there's just been the dual threat nature of the K-State quarterback has allowed there to be other avenues available. But, yeah, I think Michael Bishop didn't have more than that in 98. I think the Colin Klein didn't have more than that in 2012. I think that L didn't have more than that in 2003. It's crazy, but...
Well, in reference, I mentioned a Wyatt. I've been going back to 2003, and that's how deadly I feel like this rushing attack can be. That's because L. Roberson and Darren Sproles were just the two-headed monster that was just incredibly good. Mm-hmm. But also, remember, L. Roberson ran it, I think it was in 03 or 02, one of those years. He ran it over 200 times. That is not going to happen for Avery. No. Not even close. No. I mean, design runs, I don't even know if I can pinpoint a number, but I'm thinking less than 10 for sure. Maybe 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 10. We're going to see the arms show off and with plenty of wide receivers. So it's about the passing touchdowns. That's how you roll up the big number. It's not going to be a lot of quarterback sneaks like Colin Klein.
No, where things are at backup quarterback-wise right now with just the uncertainty. They like what they've seen from Daquan Roberson. They like what they've seen from Jacob Knuth, but they're not excited to see them against the number 1 Big 12 defense either.
I'll just say this. I think 40 is a solid goal. I think Avery can absolutely get there, and I think he does. Like, if he gets there, then K-State is, I think, no doubt about it, a Big 12 championship type of team, which the media – did you vote, by the way?
I did not.
Okay,
For some reason I got,
so we both messed up and didn't vote because then K-State would have been probably picked first in the preseason poll if we would have done our jobs. That's our bad. We'll get back at it next year. We got just a few minutes left. Let's take our final break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the Big 12 in Week 1 of college football next.
You're listening to Wildcat Insider.
All right, Tim, just a couple of minutes left. Let's look at the Big 12 slate. We won't get to everything, but 4 teams play on Thursday. Leading it off will be UCF and New Hampshire at 6 o'clock on ESPN+. But also Thursday from the home of Sporting KC. Children's Mercy Park, number 22, Kansas, will host Lindenwood at 7. How high are you on KU this year? Do you consider them Big 12 title contenders?
If Jaden Daniels can hold out and be healthy, if his back holds up, yes. I think that they have some super great weapons, starting with Devin Neal, and then that defense continues to get better and better. Lance Leipold is the real deal.
This may be the second biggest game of the weekend for a Big 12 team. How about on Thursday at 7 o'clock on ESPN? Colorado is hosting North Dakota State. A lot of drama around the Colorado program right now, and then here comes the Bison into Boulder. Colorado goes in as a 10-point favorite. Do you have a clue on Colorado this year?
No, I don't. They're talented. They have the top end talent, but man, the Bison are tough. They have that ingrained Chris Kleiman, don't care about anything on the outside, don't care about the flash, and Colorado cares about the flash quite a bit. So it's a great clash of styles. I'm excited to watch it.
On Friday, you have one standalone game for the Big 12. TCU at Stanford for a 9:30 kick on ESPN. How about on Saturday, leading things off at 11 a.m. on Fox? It is number 8 Penn State visiting West Virginia. I'm higher on West Virginia as most people are. I think Garrett Green can be a very talented quarterback, but I think like K-State, they also have a three-headed monster ready to take off. And I'm taking plus 8.5 for West Virginia that day.
Absolutely. I don't love Penn State. I think that they were a little...
Listen, they're the Dallas Cowboys of college football. They choke every single year. They struggle to win the big games, and this is a big one.
And at Morgantown, they're going to be ready. It's going to be popping at 11 a.m.
Not a whole lot else after that to talk about. It is the first week of the season, but college football is here, and the Cats play on Saturday, kicking off at 6 o'clock from Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Tim, what'd you think? Not too bad, right?
No, hopefully I didn't ramble on too much.
Well, Tim will be with us once again for Power Cat Game Day at 2 p.m. on Saturday here on K-Man on a 101.5 K-Rock, along with Zach Nemechek and Mason Voth. The game tomorrow at 4 for Tim. I'm Mitch. Go Cats.